Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman here, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype, here on your Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're looking at here for today as we're looking at some more bitterly cold air arriving into the country with an Alberta clipper system that's going to be moving in across the Great Lakes. And of course, you know, that means more lake effect snows there. We're going to be talking a bit of a pattern change taking place next week, so it may impact depending on where you are in the country to see those changes. We'll talk about that. And also with the overall pattern, it looks like it's getting a little more active, which means we're going to start seeing those storm systems progressing across the nation a little more regular intervals. So that means the chances of rain will be going up there as well. Now, before we get into this report, I first want to say thank you to the new subscribers. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, what you waiting for? Please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And as always, please leave a comment down below. Give me a thumbs up. It does help with the YouTube algorithm as we continue to try to grow the best product out there in the YouTube universe. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here at the current satellite imagery across the nation. Pretty quiet. We are seeing this storm system here. This is our Alberta clipper system here, bringing down out of Canada. It's going to be moving in across the Great Lakes there. Got some rains down here across South Texas. Otherwise, it's just plain old cold here in the east. You can see that cold air. See those altostratus type clouds here off the east coast. That's because of that cold air moving in over the relatively warmer waters of the Atlantic. And west coast, everything looking pretty quiet out here for the moment. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our current watches and warnings. Obviously, we got numerous winter weather type advisories here across the Great Lakes, even into the northeast. Freeze warnings down here in the south, a couple of fog locations out here in the west for New Mexico, California, Idaho, and some high wind warnings up there into portions of Montana. All right, let's look at the current surface map. Again, just plain old cold here across the eastern third of the United States, that's for sure. A little wet and rainy down here toward Texas, some snows up there, moving into portions of northern Minnesota. Very quiet, high pressure control here all across the western portion of the United States. Let's go take a closer look at some of this rain down here in South Texas, getting some of this heavy rain bands kind of moving in here off the Gulf of Mexico. And this area could see some locally heavy rains at times for today. In fact, this moisture will be increasing across Texas in the days ahead and bring with it an increased chance for showers and thunderstorms. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at the latest from the Storms Prediction Center as far as where the thunderstorm risk will be increasing here over the next several days. So as we take a look at that day one outlook, right now it's just confined down there where I just showed you there across South Texas. So we're talking about toward Corpus Christi, Brownsville area. That'll be the areas there of possible thunderstorms for this afternoon. Now, what about our day two outlook? So we're talking about going into your Wednesday. Let's go ahead and talk about day two. As you can see, it kind of increases up the coast a little bit, but it really kicks in going into Thursday as we'll see the storm system kind of, this upper level disturbance kind of riding in out from the west, so kind of pulling some of that Gulf moisture there. And we'll see an increase of thunderstorms there from Louisiana covering a big part of Texas there as we head toward your Thursday. No organized severe weather, at least that's the good news here, considered at this time. Now, as far as heavy rain threat, the only thing we got to worry about here is really for today. This is the only day that's showing that there's a slight marginal risk for some downpours down there across South Texas. Otherwise, we're not going to see any major rain events for now expected here for the next 3 days. Now, beyond the 3 days, when we look at the hazards outlook, we do see some heavy rain here showing up here, potentially across portions of Louisiana. That's the hazards outlook right there. You notice all this brownness and some gusty winds coming in with that next clipper system coming in behind that. And as always, we still have that threat there. You see the little pockets there around the Great Lakes for some heavy snows. That will continue, especially with that reinforcing shot of cold air moving in across Lake Erie and Lake Ontario here coming in the next few days and going into this upcoming weekend. So more to follow on that. Let's talk about the short-range forecast. We're looking at the high-resolution model here as we're going to be looking at basically the next 48 hours. The main activity is going to be right here around the Great Lakes. Obviously, we've still got the very cold air in place here across the eastern third of the United States, and we got the wet and rainy weather down there across portions of South Texas. So as we go through the next couple of days, we'll see that clipper system come on in, drop on in across the Great Lakes. You see that, especially going into your Wednesday, seeing it definitely increasing there across the Great Lakes. Still got the rainy weather there across the Texas Gulf Coast, and yep, staying dry out here in the west. No big precipitation to worry about there in the west here for the next couple of days. It continues to stay high and dry. And that snow will move in here, moving into New England there late in the day on Wednesday, going into Wednesday night and moving into Thursday. So looks like we'll see some see some snowy conditions there across New England and the Great Lakes. And some of this moisture is getting pulled up here as a frontal system's coming on down. So that's going to pull that moisture up into Louisiana briefly, and then it'll shove it down. This will go ahead and travel back into the Gulf of Mexico as the next front sweeps on down here from the north. Let's talk about the jet stream. Of course, you know the jet stream is what drives our weather systems, and obviously with this kind of configuration, yeah, we know what this means. We know this means we got plenty of cold air that's still sitting here across the eastern third of the United States. Now, what we're going to start seeing is the jet stream becoming a little more active with the storm systems progressing from west to east, which means better chances of rain coming on here in the near future. So we're going to watch initially, again, we got a little piece of energy here that we're watching. We're also watching this little piece of energy out here toward the west. Those are the two areas watching as far as the more immediate term. So we got that little dip in the jet stream coming on down right there, going into Wednesday. That's that Clipper system coming in across the Great Lakes, and that'll move on toward the east. And then we got this another piece of energy here coming in here off the west coast. This will be coming in going into next week, and that will increase that rain threat here as we go past this weekend. So as this moves on out past this weekend, things will start to modify a little bit with its temperatures as the jet stream retreats to the north, okay? This is the main jet stream here. This is the main one here, and this is the subtropical jet stream down here toward the south. So they're what we call out of phase. They're not really working in tandem here a little bit. Now, as we go forward, we're going to watch that piece of energy here eject out of the southwest. So this will bring in the chance of rain heading in toward Monday here, as we see that energy kind of pull on out. As the jet stream now is, look at this, aha, we got a little bit of a change here now. We got it coming out toward the west. So we're going to get that cold air going out further out to the west. We'll see things modify a little bit in the east. And this big trough kind of stays in place here going later in the week. So this is going toward the 11th here. As we got the jet stream like this, that means obviously we'll see warmer temperatures there across the southeast as we head toward the 11th. Now, as we go ahead and take this on through, this will slowly push on off, and then we got another dip in the jet stream again. As I was mentioning, a little more progressive pattern. So we're starting to see these things begin to move from west to east across the country. That's a little more typical what I would expect to see in December. So we're going to see that dive on down and move on into the middle of the country as we head toward the 15th and 16th. And this will move off, and then there's another one right behind it. So one thing I've noticed here is that we're getting these dips in the jet stream. The jet streams are shifting a little bit further north, and these dips are not overly huge. So they're smaller systems. They're not big, gigantic ones, but there'll be chances of rain and precipitation to come with those. And behind each one of those will be cooler shots, which do appear right now to be more toward the northern third of the United States, maybe not getting as far south. That's what we're seeing, obviously, with this current cold snap that we're currently in. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the European model. Again, we're going to talk about this here as we look at the precipitation here coming into this upcoming Thursday. Obviously, we're going to be a little unsettled here across the northeast with some snows. We got a little bit of rain here along the Gulf Coast from Alabama back toward Texas as that moves off going into early Thursday morning. And this will move on off, and it looks like we're going to stay quiet here for Friday. Friday not looking bad. But notice that blue starts to retreat to the north. That freezing line really starts to move up here toward the north. So things will be warming up here across the southeast. A little unsettled out here on the west coast. Got a little storm system out there coming in and heading into your Saturday, late in the day on your Saturday or on December the 7th. So as we move on through here, we're going to tap some of that moisture again. Boom, here's a little bit outbreak of rain going into that Monday. Out ahead of our next system there is we're getting some rainfalls from areas of Missouri stretching back toward Texas and Louisiana there on your Monday. Now let's go ahead and take this forward. Again, this will spread across the Ohio River Valley. Now what's interesting is because of the warm up here, this will be plain old rain that's falling across the Great Lakes. It's too warm there, and that means is that that rain's going to be falling all that heavy snow that's already sitting there. So some flooding maybe from melted snow as well as some of this rain coming in there. Just something to watch. It might get a little icy there for sure with some of that rainfall. And this is going to move on off toward the east. And then we get another system behind this coming into the 11th, 12th. This one looks like we may have a few thunderstorms with this one coming in toward Wednesday the 11th. So we get a chance of thunderstorms back in the forecast potentially there going to the middle of next week. So we're going to talk about next week. This pushes off toward the east, getting some rains there across the mid-Atlantic, the deep south getting in the rain. Also got some rain out here in the west coast and some higher elevation snows coming in toward the 12th and 13th of December. So we're seeing that move on off toward the east, and then that pushes off. And then as the next system on the west pulls off, it pulls out to the plains. Boom, we grab some more moisture. So again, more progressive, starting to see the storm systems every few days starting to cross the country. So this is a little more typical of what you should see there. This is a pretty good dose of some cold air here coming behind this system here as we look at some rain and some thunderstorms there going into the 16th and 17th. Once again, another system coming in here on the west coast with this as this pulls on off. We'll go to the end of this run here as that pulls on off to the east. So as you can see, we're getting into a more progressive pattern here, and I think that's probably going to hold going in toward as we head toward Christmas. So as far as those wanting to know if we're going to have a white Christmas or not, really going to be a timing issue here on where's the cold air and where's that weather system that may provide the moisture for any kind of snow. So that's what we'll be looking at as we get closer. Obviously, this is 360 hours, folks, so you know this is going to change a little bit. But again, we're looking at trends. We're looking at, is this thing going to continue showing this trend of storm systems that are going to be parading behind each other? And I think we're going to see that. Now, as far as precipitation goes, we're going to take this out for the next 10 days here. I usually don't like going beyond about 10 days for precipitation totals. Obviously, we're seeing here in the short term for the next couple of days some of the rain here across parts of Texas. That'll spread into the southeast, obviously, there. A little bit going to that system on Thursday across Louisiana. And then you're seeing the snows across the Great Lakes. This is not as robust as what we've seen. It's still pretty decent, but not as heavy as the previous event like we had, for example, over the weekend. So this is going to move on off toward the east. We're starting to get some rains in the northwest there. And as we go ahead and take this all the way out to 240, I'll stop it right about there. Notice we're getting some much needed rainfall here across the southeast, the mid-Atlantic, the east. Still pretty dry out here in the west here though, but we are seeing some of that rain start to increase out here on the west coast here as we go through the next 10 days. What about snowfall? Let's go ahead and look at this one again, going out 10 days on the snow totals here. Obviously, the Great Lakes will continue to be our hotbed zone there for the short term. And as we go through the next 10 days, that'll spread here going into later in the week across areas in the Northeast. Again, that's that Clipper system coming down across the Great Lakes and heading into New England as we go into Wednesday through going into that Friday. Now, as we continue into this weekend, we'll start seeing a little bit of snow out here in the west, starting to see it across Idaho and Montana, obviously across those higher elevations there. And as we go and take this on out to 240, we'll start to see some of those changes with some of that snow starting to pick up out here in the west. But most of the nation outside of the Great Lakes and Northeast, that's where your best snow chances are going to be here for the next 10 days. Now, what about that temperatures anomalies? Again, we're talking about the greens and blues. That's what we're talking about, below normal temperatures. The reds and oranges, that's above. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So we got the cold air that's currently in place here for Wednesday. We're going to watch another shot of cold air up here that's going to dive down here as we head into this later this week. So here it comes. Boom, it drops on down here going into Thursday and Friday. So this will be the one last big shot of cold air coming here across the eastern half of the United States. And then we'll see things begin to change going through the weekend, okay? Start pushing that off here a little bit. We got a little cold air coming in. We start to see things warming up as we head toward Tuesday. Notice by the time we head to Tuesday, we're looking at above normal temperatures here across the east. We're seeing colder temperatures out here in the west. Got a little cold core right there behind that one little storm system. So as we go through Tuesday, this will drop on down, boom, behind that system. It kind of beats back that milder air there in the east as we head toward the 12th, heading toward Thursday. And this moves on off, and then we see a warm up there in the middle on the back side of it. Again, the pattern becomes more progressive. So you get a brief cool down, then a warm up out ahead of the next system. So we're seeing well above normal temperatures there from Minnesota back into Oklahoma. Still holding on to the cold air here, and some bitterly cold air just north of the border there across southern Canada as we head toward the 15th of the month. Then as we go ahead and progress this on off toward the east, you notice we got a pretty good front there. That's definitely a good cold front here as this pushes off toward the east here. And we'll see the temperatures back off there across the east as this pushes on out. Get a nice little cold shot there. And then we got another warm up here ahead of another system. Looks like this is going to be diving down here past the 18th or 17th or 18th of the month. So again, with the pattern becoming more active, the fluctuations in the temperatures are definitely going to be there for the next couple of weeks. This goes out 15 days. Now, as far as looking ahead, this is just a snapshot preview. I just wanted to pull this up. This is heading toward Christmas, okay, the 19th to the 26th here on the European model, showing that temperatures are showing to be cooler here in the east, also a little bit here on the west. So again, kind of showing that trend of between systems with warm pockets and then cold pockets here and there. So it's not looking like across the country. Most of the country right now for Christmas looks like it's going to be either a below average or near average for Christmas, which is not bad. It's just a question. It's a little early to tell where we're going to see the potential snow, maybe backing up the few days prior to Christmas for those who may be looking forward to a potential white Christmas. So let's go ahead and take a look for the latest from the Climate Prediction Center here. As again, we're seeing temperatures will begin to modify the 6 to 10 day outlook here. Again, the 8th to the 12th showing near normal here in the east, above normal here in the west as we continue through that. And then going out from the 8th to the 14th, temporarily will get everybody warmer than the average here going through the 10th to the 16th. I think this is definitely temporary here. We'll see some colder shots coming down as the pattern begins to change sometime after the 15th and 16th. So I think this will begin to change a little bit here in the days ahead from the Climate Prediction Center. Now, as far as precipitation, we're going to stay active here in the east, drier here in the west from the 8th to the 12th. And then from the 10th to the 16th, showing a briefly drier period here. Again, we get a little more active here up toward the north across areas of the Dakotas and back over toward Montana. And I think this here, based off what we're seeing with the model trends, this will also begin to change here as we go for the next tomorrow and the next day here with the climate prediction outlook here. As I think the pattern gets, as it gets a little more progressive, obviously better chances of precipitation coming in here as well. So it looks like we're going to start to see some change. I know folks here have been freezing and it's just cold here in the east. Just hold on. We're going to get things to begin to modify a little bit. And folks that have been needing a little bit of rainfall, looks like those chances will also be increasing as we go into next week and beyond. The rest of this week will be outside of that Alberta Clipper system coming into the Great Lakes and heading into the northeast with some snow. Most of the rest of this week should remain on the dry side. All right, hey, if you'd like to make this a regular feature in your YouTube feed, I would really appreciate you help me try to grow this channel. You know, the bigger the audience, the better I can get critical weather information out to more people. So please consider subscribing to that channel, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And if you like what you see, you got any comments, got any feedback, got something you'd like to see, again, post that down below. I do appreciate y'all's support. All right, that's it for now. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next report. Bye, guys.